Thank you, Jonathan, for meeting with me today.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to start out by saying that it's a really pleasure to have McKenna in class. She's always very cooperative in working with other students and always stays on task throughout the school day, and she's also very kind and respectful to her classmates.
That is good to hear. She always talks about how much she loves school.
Good. Over the course of this semester, I've been assessing students to see how they're doing with their literacy skills. There are 5 pillars to literacy. The first is phonemic awareness, which is the ability to distinguish the individual sounds within words. So, for example, a student will be able to break down the word chat into ch, at, which has 3 different sounds. So when I assessed McKenna on this, she did great. She was correctly able to distinguish individual sounds for multisyllabic words, which is fantastic. The next pillar of literacy is phonics, and this is when students are able to match the sounds to their letters. This includes producing the letters and decoding the letters, so they'll know that the t sound belongs to the letter T. The first thing I used was an elementary spelling inventory, which you can see right here. These are her results, and it shows that she is within word pattern to early syllable and affixes stage.
Are these stages normal for McKenna's age?
Yeah, McKenna is right where she should be in her spelling. The syllable and affixes stage should start around 3rd or 4th grade for most students. From the spelling inventory, I could see that McKenna does really well with blends, which is 2 letters together that make one sound, such as sh. And she also does really well with common long vowels. As you can see here, she started to have some trouble with inflected endings, and this includes the S sounds to make words plural and the ED sounds and the ing suffixes of words. So whenever these suffixes are added to words, she has trouble changing the spelling to make it match the new word. These suffixes change the number and the tense of the base word, but do not change its meaning or part of speech. One of the most common errors students make in this stage is they forget to double the final letter in the word. So you can see here that McKenna did not do that right with shopping. Instead, she used only one P instead of doubling the consonant to add the ing to it. In class, I've started doing some intervention strategies, and I've had the students keep a word study notebook. The use of word study notebooks in this stage continues to be an easy way to help students and teachers manage the routines and organizations of word study. At school, students will take notes as they learn more about words, and at home, there are activities that can do it to further their learning. Here are some things I think would be beneficial for McKenna to do at home. In her word study notebook that she keeps in the classroom, excuse me for 1 second, let me read this paper. She could find words like in any of the books she's reading, like she can find the base words in the words and underline them. So she can just find base words, she can circle the prefixes and suffixes. This would give McKenna a lot of practice with inflected endings and syllable junctures.
And how often should I be doing this at home with McKenna?
It'd be very beneficial for her if she had frequent practice with these words and until she shows progress in this stage. The second assessment I used for McKenna was the nonsense word test, which is right over here. This assessment has 5 different categories of nonsense words that each focus on a certain skill. Nonsense words are meant to see if students are able to correctly sound out words. These areas that she did really well in are short vowels and digraph blends, which are these 2 categories right here. She only missed a couple in these areas, and after looking at how she read them, I think she may have just mixed up a few letters. In both long vowels and multisyllabic words, she read 6 out of 10 words correctly. The category that McKenna struggled with was other vowels, where she wrote 2 out of the 10 words incorrectly. In phonics, McKenna's further instruction should be focused on spelling practice. One way that I'm helping students practice their spelling in the classroom is by playing the spelling game explained in the Words Their Way textbook that we follow. In this game, students use a follow the path game board, and on each student's turn, the person next to them draws them a card and reads them aloud a word. And if the player correctly spells the word, they get to move on the game board, and if they misspell it, then they have to stay. This is a simple yet beneficial game for students to play because it helps them practice spelling, and the cards used can be switched up for when they are focusing on different phonics skills. This game could also be played at home with family.
Thank you. That sounds like an awesome idea.
After assessing her in those categories, I assessed McKenna in her vocabulary. This aspect plays an important role in whether students are comprehending stories that they either read or hear. Vocabulary is the meaning behind words, so when more complex vocabulary is used in books, it gives the reader a certain meaning and feeling. As students are reading on their own, they must rely on the vocabulary to understand the words that they are reading. So the assessment administered to assess McKenna's vocabulary assesses vocabulary knowledge outside of context. So at each level of the assessment, there are 5 words on the page that are read aloud to the student. After the students' responses are recorded, the student moves on to the next level if they replied with the correct meaning of 4 out of the 5 words. I began the assessment at level 2, which is 1 level below her grade, and once we reached level 5, McKenna got only 3 out of 5 corrects, and I knew that this was her frustration level, so after giving this assessment, I concluded that McKenna's vocabulary knowledge is at a level 4, which is 1 grade above her grade level, which is good, but there's definitely room for growth.
What can I do to further her vocabulary?
Well, research has shown that when parents use sophisticated language with their child, it will help to broaden their vocabulary. In the article Fun with Vocabulary by Janet Towle, it states that another way to help student learn vocabulary is by acting out the meaning of words or doing nonverbal skits, which could be fun to do at home. Using active involvement helps students remember word meanings by fulfilling their kinesthetic learning needs. So in the classroom, I've prompted McKenna to start reading 5th and 6th grade level books, and these books are right in her zone of proximal development, and will give her the extra vocabulary exposure that she needs.
Sounds good. I will start doing that.
So the next pillar that I assessed her in is fluency, which is a very important role in literacy. To be fluent in reading means being able to read with a natural flow that is not choppy or disorganized. When a student has strong fluency skills, they will be able to read passages easily without frustration and be able to gain meaning from what they read. So if a student does not have fluency skills, they will spend most of their time trying to decode the words on the page one at a time. One assessment that I administered was the San Diego Quick Assessment of Reading Ability. And this reading ability assessment tested McKenna's ability to recognize words outside of their context. The assessment is designed this way because fluent readers are generally able to read words both in and out of context. If a reader is not fluent, they will heavily rely on context clues to be able to read more difficult words. After this assessment, I concluded that the 4th grade words are McKenna's independent level, while 5th grade words were her frustration level, which is exactly where she should be. So the next assessment after that I used was a running record, and this assessment was used to determine how many words McKenna can read per minute. This assessment indicated that McKenna is right in the middle percentile for her grade level. Reading words within context is one aspect of being fluent, and this is one of McKenna's strengths. So whenever McKenna came across a word that she wasn't familiar with, she relied on context clues to help her figure it out, and this is really awesome that she's doing that, because that's what good readers usually do that. So the results from both of the fluency assessments indicated that McKenna is reading at a 4th grade independent reading level, 1 level above her grade. One way that McKenna could be guided further in her fluency skills, both at home and here at school, is through assisted reading. In assisted reading, the students read a text at their instructional level with a more proficient reader who they read aloud together with. The more proficient reader can begin by orally reading aloud the text to the student, then move towards reading the text together out loud, and then finally allowing the student to read aloud independently while offering support as needed. This allows students to have guidance with more difficult texts and to have someone model fluent reading for them.
Should this assisted reading be done with books above her grade level?
Since McKenna is reading pretty fluently with texts that are at her grade level, it would be beneficial for her to have support when reading aloud books at a higher grade level, because this will help her fluency skills.
Okay.
The last part of literacy I assessed her on was comprehension, and comprehension is the understanding of what one is reading or hearing being read. The student is not only reading or hearing the words, but they are gaining meaning from the text and would be able to retell to someone what happened in the text. I had her read aloud a story and then create a story map that outlined the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. And McKenna read aloud the story by herself and filled out the story map of what she understood what happened. So students can gain better comprehension skills by watching a more proficient reader interact with text and discuss the event and characters. McKenna's comprehension skills would benefit from hearing books read out loud and discussed with a more proficient reader. By having a student critically think about text and make inferences from them, they gain a deeper understanding of what was read. This is called text talk, and in The Fluent Reader, Rosinski states that reading aloud is also key to developing students' comprehension skills, especially when the experience contains opportunity to engage in discussions about the text.
Sounds good. I will start reading aloud more with McKenna at home.
So do you have any questions?
Is it better to have McKenna reading out loud or silently?
It is great for McKenna to have practice doing both, really. Fluency is both out loud and silent reading. The more practice she gets doing both, the more her literacy skills will be enriched.
Well, all of this sounds good to me.
Overall, McKenna is an outstanding student. She loves reading and she's a very hard worker. With a little extra practice, I know that McKenna's learning will be taken further. But she is on the right track and I know she will do great things.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I look forward to seeing you again.